Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good.
Matt, that's great. We're here back again in the mistake zone, coming off another long weekend. Matt, got to start off by apologizing to my best friend about how floaty and flaky I was with our scheduling this weekend, where wanted to record in person, this week's episode, plus put something in the vault just for when you and the boys go on vacation next month. But Matt, again, last minute scheduling gets the best of me, and I apologize for that. But Matt, I'm hoping, Matt, how was your weekend with me flaking aside?
Jaren, I slept a lot and I waited around on connecting to Helldivers servers a lot.
Matt, I know that's going to be our big boy topic for this episode. I'll be honest, Matt, you explained what Helldivers was during our pre-cap episode for 2024. And to be completely honest, Matt, I'm still not sure what this game is other than the fact that it is super popular. But Matt, before we get into the nitty gritty, I feel like I should take this time to kind of record something in our audio journal. And this past weekend, when I visited the area, we ended up going to downtown Toronto to the AGO, I believe the Art Gallery of Ontario. I don't actually know what the AGO stands for.
That's what it stands for, yeah.
Sounds about right. Gotta admit, we are annual pass holders, so I feel like every time a new exhibit comes around, we try to make our way over to check it out. And one of their latest exhibits was the new Keith Haring exhibit. And Matt, the reason why I wanted to bring it up in the mistake zone, one, I wouldn't say I was a big fan of Keith Haring's work. It's every time I have seen his work, just kind of on a Uniqlo t-shirt, for example, or the first time I was in Tokyo at a Don Q, I saw his work on a bottle of lube for some reason, which would probably kind of inform my take right now. But Keith Haring, his work is something that I respect. Every time I've seen it, just out and about, but it's nothing I've really consumed recently. But I think this exhibit, sorry, not recently, but kind of consumed in depth or really looked around at his breadth of work other than, again, what's been presented to us commercially. And I do appreciate this exhibit just because it really just shows all his different work, just the variety of things that he has created in the past. And I think there's just something about seeing pieces, the original work in the flesh, seeing the line work, seeing, just how the paint dried on a canvas or wherever, a tarp, for example, and just kind of, again, Matt, seeing that aura or feeling that aura of actual art rather than, oh, here's a print or here's something on a t-shirt. I feel like that's always something I come to appreciate when I go to an exhibit or go to a museum. But the reason I bring it up, Matt, is because the reason I keep hammering the point of, all I know of his work is through what's been commercialized is that there's a good portion of his work that is really sexual in nature, that's really phallic in nature. And not gonna lie, Matt, some of those areas in the exhibit that's solely focused on that aspect of his work, essentially the aspect that hasn't been commodified, that hasn't been printed on a t-shirt. Not only does that kind of add to the appreciation, just to, again, as someone who wasn't overly familiar with his work, just to see the breadth of what he has done within his lifetime, but Matt, at the same time, just that notion of, oh, Keith Haring, he's the guy that is on the Uniqlo collab t-shirts. That this is definitely something I can bring my family to. That seeing parents' reactions to the rooms that contain the overtly sexual work and some of the sections with the overly phallic imagery, both implied and just straight up in your face. That that alone was worth the price of admission. There was this one room, I think it was with his kind of anti-capitalist work. And there's this one piece in particular that was notably phallic, and seeing this little girl just stare at it with a disgusted look on her face, that made the museum trip even more enjoyable for me. Just again, that contrast of not only being introduced to his all his other work, but also seeing other people being introduced to his other work as well, and just hearing little boys go, "I don't like this." Great.
Yeah, they're expressive about their art taste, Jaren.
Hey man, as long as we're consuming art, as long as we're able to converse about it, I enjoyed it. If you're in the area, I do recommend that exhibit. I know there's a cause exhibit still going on as well. I know we originally went to the AGO back in November to first see the cause exhibit, Matt, and I was thinking, oh, it's been like 2 months. Hopefully the foot traffic died down. Nope, Matt. Foot traffic still high, still a lot of people stopping in the middle of the hallway leading up to the exhibit to take pictures. Matt, despite all the signage and the security guards saying, hey, don't touch the art pieces, a lot of people's trying to take selfies beside some of the cost work and getting a little too close for comfort. But, you know, that's part of the public viewing experience. Check out the AGO. I guess if you're around, if you're a fan of Keith Haring, the cause exhibit, it's a bit on the smaller end, but I enjoyed it as well. And again, a lot of great exhibits just in general throughout the AGO. Do recommend an annual pass if that's something within your budget. I think it's $35 for the year. Matt, you know who wasn't impressed by the $35 it was a year?
Who?
When we were in an elevator going to the Keith Haring exhibit, we were by a couple, and Matt, the guy in that relationship, did not seem too thrilled that him and his partner paid $35 for an annual pass, and he seemed like he didn't want to be there while I guess his girlfriend really wanted to be there. Matt, you hate to see it. It got to the point where they were bickering in the elevator, and how she was complaining that, well, we went to golf the other week, so I don't see why this is an issue. Ako Taco, Matt.
Jaren?
I think part of a good museum going experience is the people watching, and I also recommend that, Matt, it's a bonus exhibit. So, final question, Matt, when was the last time you went to a museum?
Jaren, I don't go to museums.
Fair enough,
Jaren,
Matt.
$35 seems like really low. I would have thought, if you told me to guess how much it costs to go into a museum, I would have guessed like $35 would be like the daily fee or whatever.
Matt, a day pass to the AGO, I believe, is like $25. So if you have the extra $10, why don't you cover yourself for the year? That's my take. But I'm a fan of museums in general. So, you know, not hashtag ad, not hashtag sponsored, but hashtag entertaining, Matt. Needless to say, I guess no Team Labs in your plans for Tokyo or Japan, Matt?
No, not really. Unless the people that I'm going with want to go, I don't really have a Team Labs experience that I particularly want to go to. There was one I wanted to go to in Fukuoka, actually, but apparently it's not there anymore, which is kind of a bummer.
I feel like for me, I want to try to go to as many Team Labs as I can, and there's that new Tokyo one. So maybe next time, Matt. Maybe next time. But Matt, for the next segment, you know what's coming. It is... Oh, God damn it, Matt. I got it on my mic.
Oh.
Oh no, Matt. I wonder if my mic picked that up.
Oh
But
man.
this is Jaren's Kira Kira sparkling water review. Matt, shout out to my sister because when I visited her this weekend, I noticed she had bubbly grapefruit in the fridge, and Matt
Hmm.
took it home so I could drink it and tell
Nice.
you about bubbly. Did I say bubbly orange? My mistake. Bubbly grapefruit. And
Hmm.
Matt,
Hmm.
now that I have it open, let's dig in. Huh. Matt,
Uh-huh.
so I just cracked open a can of bubbly grapefruit.
Hmm.
This is part of their variety pack, which I believe comes with the grapefruit, strawberry, and lime. Matt,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
I've had other grapefruit sparkling water before, and the bubbly grapefruit one I think is the most grapefruit tasting because normally when I've had grapefruit sparkling water or even grapefruit beverages in the past that isn't straight up grapefruit juice, they kind of cut away that bitter or is it sour, that distinct
Hmm.
grapefruit taste that
Oh.
usually hits in the tip of your tongue where you have that initial hint of grapefruit, but you don't have that bitter sour taste or whatever flavor that is.
Oh.
Needless to say, the bubbly grapefruit sparkling water does have that aftertaste
Oh.
where the honestly, Matt, this
Uh-huh.
is a full grapefruit experience, including the bitterness. Where, again, with other grapefruit beverages that weren't juice, it has that initial sweetness, but it doesn't have the bitterness. This bubbly grapefruit has that bitterness towards the end, and yeah, I wasn't. I kind of expecting that, Matt. Where,
Hmm.
yeah, that's sitting on the tip of my tongue afterwards. Where I'm honestly impressed that this is pretty true to a real grapefruit experience. And Matt,
Hmm.
well, I can acknowledge that this is a grapefruit beverage, but honestly, I think I have to put this kind of last on my current sparkling water, Jaren's Kira Kira sparkling water review power rankings.
Hmm.
Gonna put this under the. Matt, let me pull it up. What do I currently have at last? Maybe I need to. Wow, I actually put cucumber melon last. Maybe I need to revise this list at some point, Matt. But the new last, I am going to put bubbly grapefruit, mostly because not a fan of. Matt, how do you actually feel about grapefruit as a
Jaren,
fruit?
I don't like grapefruit.
Okay.
So when you were talking about how artificial grapefruit flavor doesn't have that bitterness to it, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should try these artificial grapefruit flavors because that is the
Matt,
part that I don't like.
I'm
Hmm.
going to try to find a can of whatever grapefruit sparkling water I had before, but maybe as a comparison. But for bubbly grapefruit sparkling water, yeah, if you like that grapefruit experience, maybe you should pick this one up. But as someone who doesn't, who needs to put sugar on their grapefruit to eat it because he has a baby mouth, yeah, gotta put it last on the list. So again, this isn't a hashtag ad. This isn't a hashtag sponsored, but Matt, it's hashtag okay if you're into that sort of thing.
Nice.
So Matt,
Hmm.
speaking about things that might not necessarily be for me,
Uh
uh,
huh.
I checked out another game to, continue to fill out my Steam recently played list, aka to change something with no recent activity to last played.
Hmm.
And Matt, in
Hmm.
an attempt to find something to play on the Steam Deck, when I visited my sister and it's kind of just me trying to fall asleep, play something before bed, I came across Lost Ruins. I believe I picked this up during a Humble Bundle sale, I think sometime last year, mostly because I wanted to get another copy of Bloodstained for Steam.
Uh huh.
But that Lost Ruins is a 2D Metroidvania. you play as a high school girl simply known as the heroine. And Matt, tell me if you've heard this before, but our heroine has been summoned by cultists to this ruined castle in order to be sacrificed to resurrect the Dark Lady. Not, of course, something goes wrong during the summoning process, and despite her having amnesia, our heroine hasn't been brainwashed but has increased combat prowess. I guess during her isekai process, she meets the castle guardian, whose name is Beatrice, who acts kind of as a guide and wants the Dark Lady to remain sealed. And when you start up the game and you're taken to the difficulty selection, you receive a message that says that Lost Ruins has been designed as a survival experience that requires the player to approach situations carefully. The game suggests to make good use of items, react accordingly, and you'll be sure to succeed. Those interested in the story with minimal obstacles are encouraged to try the accessibility difficulty. And Matt, for reasons that will be apparent to our friends over the next month, I was half feeling myself thinking I can at least do recommended because Matt, recommended is recommended for experienced gamers. And as a now certified experienced gamer, I went into Lost Ruins with the recommended difficulty. And needless to say, it definitely is one of those games, but as a side-scrolling 2D Metroidvania. And what I mean by that is the first weapon that you find is a long-rusted sword. And of course, the first enemy you encounter is a lowly goblin. Very early on, you realize, oh, my weapons have a follow-through that I need to commit to, and definitely spacing needs to be considered when attacking because Matt, if you're too close to something, they're just going to wail on you. You're going to be vulnerable and you really can't attack them. I think numerous times I'd have a long weapon and a bat would charge at me and that bat was in my face and I can't hit it because of the weapon arc and I died. Yeah. So Matt, one of those games, as I progressed through the starting area, I died a lot. Checkpoints aren't room-based, so I found myself having to retrace my steps a lot, picking up items over and over while accepting side quests over and over that I can't complete because I'm dying over and over. Matt, a lot of the enemies hit hard. You have limited healing items, and while you have magic, you still need items to replenish your MP. You know, as is a Metroidvania, every time I would get a new spell, I would try to use it to open up a new path, you know, break a new door or whatever, and realize that it had no effect on that wall, and I just burned through an attack. Likewise, early on, you get introduced to, you know, a environmental hazard, the poisonous floor, where you need to use your flame spell to burn it. And not only do you need to crouch for your flames to actually ignite a poison floor, but you're kind of stuck there waiting for a few seconds for it to finish burning before you can proceed. And Matt, whenever I was waiting for a floor to finish burning over and over again because I died and the checkpoint was before the poison floor, it was just me kind of crouching, teabagging the floor over and over again. But I do like the pixel sprites and the overall visuals for the most part. You know, while you do have your generic fantasy mobs like goblins, slugs, bats, there are still... I ran into some student zombies who I'm assuming were previous summons as well. And one thing I do appreciate was how much character that the heroine shows with her swaying during her idle animation. Matt, I do appreciate when her running animation is essentially that quintessential anime girl running because she's late for school type runs, you know what I mean? And I do like when she's actively falling, it's her trying to keep her skirt down, which I also thought was a good goof.
Good goof.
Matt, I think those three examples tell you everything you need to know about the anime aesthetic this game has. But yeah, Matt, even though I'm a certified experienced gamer, after dedicating so much time to, again, a game I'll be talking about next month while you're away, I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted something more easygoing, and as a result, didn't have the patience for Lost Ruins. I reset the game and put it on accessibility difficulty. And to be honest, Matt, it froze when I was trying to make it back to a point I was at prior.
Mm-hmm.
So I put the game down, Matt.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I'll return to it in the future, but I think I'm okay for now, Matt. Matt,
Mm-hmm.
again, great character from the heroine, just not in the right mood for a game like this. But maybe in the future, Matt. Maybe in the future I'll check out Lost Ruins again, but maybe not, Matt. Maybe
Uh-huh.
not.
Uh-huh.
So, Matt,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like over the past week or so, we've had some news revolving around the big three console publishers.
Yes.
And I feel like our obligatory, we need to discuss the big three. Uh, Time is up for the Mistake Zone presented by Saturday Morning Arcade. And to fill the quota, Matt, let's go through some of the headlines this week, or
Mm-hmm.
at least over the past 2 weeks, starting with Bloomberg is reporting that Nintendo is advising game publishers that its next generation console will be delayed until the early months of 2025,
Mm-hmm.
according to people with knowledge of the matter. So, again, this is Bloomberg reporting that Nintendo has told some publishing executives not to expect the console until March 2025 at the earliest. Tokyo based analysis, Sirkan Toto comments Nintendo is likely looking at a pretty dry pipeline this year. The company will still try to keep the blockbusters for the next console, so 2024 might see more remakes of old Nintendo hits. In any
Mm-hmm.
case, 2024 will be a lot tougher for Nintendo without a new device. And Matt, I know
Mm-hmm.
this was something that we were, kind of heavily expecting to be announced. At least I was expecting the Switch 2 to be announced roughly next month and to see a holiday release. But if the rumors are to be believed, and Nintendo is telling publishers that, not to expect the Switch 2 until March 2025 at the very earliest. Matt, two things. How do you feel about the plausibility of this rumor? And if it is true, what do you think we'll see from Nintendo this holiday season?
Jaren, I do believe that like this is like pretty true. It does kind of line up with what I was expecting initially with
Hmm.
regards to when I was thinking the Switch 2 would come out, because I still did even feel with all the rumors of its release for like holiday or like around that time 2024, I still thought that was like really early. But Jaren, like they did announce that they're going to be doing, was it a direct like this month sometime?
Yeah, so by the time this is posted, I think it was recently announced for February 21st. It's going to be a partner direct. So
Mm-hmm.
no real first party stuff, but expecting the third party partner showcase.
Mm-hmm. So like I'm hoping that that has enough stuff to like fill out 2024.
Right.
Jaren, I really just, the one thing I want in there is a fantasy life like hard date.
Is that a third party partner or is that a first party Nintendo game?
I like it's. I think Fantasy Life is by level 5. Like the people do
Okay.
Professor Layton,
Right, right, right.
and I don't think they're first party. I think they're like, yeah. I think they're. I don't think they're first party. So I think they
Okay.
could show up in there.
Where I know Sirkan Toto is kind of expecting that we'll see maybe some more remakes just to kind of flesh out the rest of the year. Might be a little rough for Nintendo, but are there any remakes that they could potentially bring over, especially with this tight turnaround time of, I guess, out of nowhere, that this console that hasn't even been announced is now being delayed, where I know the Switch has essentially become the successor to or at least the platform where Wii U exclusive titles have come to get a second life. But I
Hmm.
also feel like all the Wii U titles that deserved or needed a second life have already seen releases. So nothing's
Yeah.
actually coming to mind of what could be potentially surprise dropped this year, other than possibly re-releasing the other two Metroid titles or Metroid Prime titles in the trilogy. But again, we haven't seen any rumblings, any rumors if those two titles in particular received the same treatment as the Metroid Prime remaster earlier. But yeah, Matt, I
Hmm.
think a bit disappointed because, again, other than Princess Peach, not really sure what's left to look forward to from Nintendo. If this is really the last hurrah, if this is really the victory lap, I think it's going to be pretty tough to kind of continue excitement for a console that is essentially on its last legs, and
Hmm.
to think that we won't see its successor for another year at this point. I don't know. It's going to. Usually, I was looking forward to what Nintendo was going to announce in the summertime, during that big direct in the not E3 season.
Hmm.
But if we're looking at a March 2025 for the Switch 2, even I don't
Uh-huh.
think you can announce that in the summer either. I think that would still be too early. Where, yeah, I'm at this point just curious to see what they can do to flesh out the year. But
Uh-huh.
uh,
Jaren, there'll be
that
Silk Song. They'll drop Silk Song finally.
that was announced like 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty sure that game is just in dev hell forever.
Oh no,
It's the Duke Nukem of our time.
Matt, I can't because I have an old man brain and I don't remember what we talked about. Did we talk about in the pre-cap how I think the rumor is that the Switch 2 will only have it won't have an LE or OLED screen at launch.
I don't think we talked specifically about that.
Matt, how does that make you feel about the supposed rumors that it will still launch with like an LCD screen?
Jaren, to be perfectly honest, I understand why people would be mad at that, especially since there is like the OLED Switch already.
Yeah,
That doesn't affect me, Jaren. I don't really
right.
play it mobile
Handheld.
that often.
Yeah.
So I'm always just playing on like us an actual screen in front of like on a chair in like at a desk or whatever. So that's not really something that affects me.
Yeah, same Matt. Big same. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess we'll see what Nintendo has for the rest of the year. I don't know, maybe a Fire Emblem remake or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Jaren, I don't know how they would do it, but I feel like Nintendo Land deserves to be on like Switch somehow.
oh man, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only time I really played Nintendo Land, despite it coming with the Wii U, I believe it came with the Wii U, right?
I don't
Was
think it did. Did it?
something wasn't something packed in with the Wii U?
Maybe it was
But
Nintendo Land. Uh huh.
I remember playing the Wii U at in our pal Julian's living room, thinking, "Oh, this is neat," and never touching it again. Oh man, rest in peace, Wii
Mm-hmm.
U.
R.I.P.
But
Mm-hmm.
speaking about March 2025, Matt, this was reported by Jamatsu that Sony Interactive Entertainment will not release any new major existing franchise titles before March 31st,
Mm-hmm.
2025. They report that Sony Interactive Entertainment does not plan to release. Oh, that's what I kind of said already. But yeah, they don't plan to release any new major existing franchise titles next fiscal year, which begins on April 1st, 2023, and ends March 31st, 2025. The company said during its fiscal year 2023 Q3 earnings briefing. The quote is regarding the first party software, we aim to continue to focus on producing high quality works and developing live service games. Sony Group President, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Financial Officer Hiroki Totoki said, but while major projects are currently under development, we do not plan to release any new major existing franchise titles next fiscal year, like God of War Ragnarok and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Jamatsu added that it should be noted that while major existing franchise titles include intellectual properties such as God of War and Marvel's Spider-Man, it does not include new IP like Concord or non-major existing franchise titles like Until Dawn. Matt, so I guess we're not getting the heavy hitters that we have come to expect from Sony until 2025, but I think at this point, Matt, I have to be that guy. Again, we're looking. I'm not sure what Sony has planned for the fall, but Matt, hear me out. Is this when we finally see Bloodborne on the PC?
Oh, maybe is Bloodborne is partially or fully owned by Sony, right?
Yep, Sony Computer Entertainment is the publisher of Bloodborne.
Like, I could see that happening, but the thing is that I also feel like that doesn't help the PS5 at all.
Right.
But
unless it was
I would want it to
remaster of sorts, but I feel like everyone has been clamoring. Man, this game came out in 2025. I mean 2015, which is kind of wild. But I feel like the Bloodborne remaster, remake, probably remaster, and the PC release is such a white whale for everyone, where I think it's almost meme status now, where even if it did release on the PS5, even on the PC, do you think the Elden Ring buff would probably make it have it find a kind of second life, and maybe a new audience that it may not have had almost a decade ago?
I guess so. I feel like even if Elden Ring didn't really exist, it still would have had its second life on PC, just because it is within that Souls-like genre.
Right.
And there probably wasn't there's going to be a lot of people who didn't have the install, or whichever, it was a PS3 came out on PS4.
PS4.
Yeah, I'm assuming a bunch of people just didn't have that at the time. So there are going to be a lot of people who want to play it, and they'll go in. But did Elden Ring really give that big of I know it was very popular. Did it really give a huge buff to the Souls-like genre?
I think going back to what we talked about in our Elden Ring specific episode, I do feel like with Elden Ring in particular, it saw a zeitgeist that I honestly haven't seen before, even in the heyday of Bloodborne, even when Sekiro came out. I feel like a lot more people were talking about Elden Ring. Again, this is kind of my conjecture and my own personal bias, but based on this, gaming circles, gaming kind of message boards, even the Reddits, even the podcast I was listening to, I feel like it had more of a reach than previous ones have had, where I'm curious if this would be something that we're seeing with Persona 3 Reloaded right now, where off the success of Persona 5, the popularity and the juggernaut that has become, that with Persona 3 Reloaded, despite P3 Portable, being released in some capacity, I think a year or two ago, I feel like discussion around Persona 3 Reloaded is a lot bigger thanks to the popularity of Persona 5, where I'm kind of curious to see if how Bloodborne would be kind of received in a post Elden Ring world, especially since there are aspects of the game that are so different than that of Elden Ring. So yeah, that's something I'm kind of curious about. I know with the new Final Fantasy 7 remake part 2, I think out this week, next week, relatively soon. I think Sony does have some strong titles where even though there's no major or updates coming to these big and tentpole franchises, I still think they're in a better spot than, say, Nintendo this holiday season. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something I just kind of wanted to bring up on the Sony end. But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
we discussed it briefly a few weeks ago. We were waiting for Phil Spencer's tweet. But
Uh-huh.
Matt,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about the official Xbox podcast on February 25th.
Yes.
Right off the bat, Matt, how do you feel about it being a pre-recorded segment and not live?
Jared, the fact that they not only dropped it on YouTube but didn't make it a like YouTube preview event
Right.
was the wildest shit to me, Jared. Like that is insane for such a, I don't know if I want to say like big press thing, but it was such a weird delivery format for this news that I felt, Jared, I felt like that should have been illegal or something.
For something that had the internet in a tizzy the past few weeks, there was something oddly anticlimactic about the Xbox podcast. But Matt, I pulled up a summary. I took this from Spiromancer and Zealous Ideal _exit 908 from Reddit. Just picking up different summaries where I can find it. But Matt, according to Phil Spencer, Microsoft and Xbox are releasing 4 games on all their consoles. Speculation that I've previously seen, the games are Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, which have been leaked in some capacity over the past few weeks, and I feel like was the precursor to this whole event. But I believe Phil Spencer said that 2 of the games would be service games, and a lot of users were pointing to Grounded being the 4th game. There was also mention that Starfield and Indiana Jones will not be coming to other consoles, but Matt, while Phil Spencer noted that, in an interview with The Verge, he did comment that I don't think we should, as an industry, ever rule out a game going to any other platform. So take that for what you will. For now, 4 Microsoft Xbox games will be coming to other consoles. But during the podcast, he affirmed that Game Pass will remain on Xbox. They also confirmed that Activision Blizzard games will be coming to Game Pass, with the first being Diablo 4 on March 28th. Another quote is exciting stuff coming out for Xbox hardware, sharing more about that this holiday. And Xbox is also prioritizing respecting the past investments people have made going forward, talking about gaming library. They noted that there will be a June showcase as well. Prior to the podcast, Matt, journalist Shannon Lau noted that Phil Spencer called an all-staff town hall meeting to address the rumors. The quote given was, "The company held an internal town hall where Spencer told employees that there were no plans to stop making consoles and that Xboxes would continue to be part of a strategy that involves multiple kinds of devices." Also, Matt, apparently Phil Spencer replied to someone via Xbox chat that owned games would be playable on xCloud in 2024. So that's kind of a basic summary of all the Xbox related news to come out over the past week in relation to the Xbox podcast. You can check it out on the official Xbox channel in full. But Matt, a lot of not necessarily confirmations to come about, but I feel like it was a pretty, when your kind of hands are tied like that, not necessarily the best you can do in terms of trying to quell the fires that the internet kind of made this out to be over the past few weeks. But at least there was some information, there are some teases there. But yeah, Matt, overall, how did you feel about what was shared during the Xbox podcast?
Jaren, I feel so let down. Jared, I was hoping for something much more spicy to drop than such a curated, I don't know, kind of just like info drop of like their next, I guess, like year-ish of stuff.
Right.
Oh.
I think personally, right off the bat, the acknowledge that, oh, there's all these rumors about these games coming,
Mm-hmm.
and then confirming that 4 games are coming to other consoles, but still, giving the opportunity for those respective developers to share that information. I thought that was honestly one of the wildest things to happen and
Mm-hmm.
really set the tone of what to expect. Where
Yeah.
I guess in all, we didn't really get any solid answers, but just enough to hopefully settle everyone. Stuff like, oh, we're going to have more Xbox hardware news in the holiday period. Oh, we're going to have a showcase in June. So a lot of, again, not sure how much you can really do when you're a big business that spent $69 billion to acquire one of the largest publishers in the world. But
Mm-hmm.
again, some small tidbits here and there. I think the biggest one for me personally was the whole Activision Blizzard games coming to Game Pass
Yeah.
starting in March. And seeing that Diablo 4 logo with me thinking, well, that's $200 that I flushed down the toilet for something I haven't played since.
Mm-hmm. That's
Matt,
honestly the
what do
most
you?
interesting.
Yeah,
Oh.
how do you feel about Diablo 4 being the first Game Pass game for the Activision Blizzard catalog?
That's really, really interesting to me because Diablo 4 right now, from what I understand, is in a very sketchy place.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is actually almost the perfect Game Pass game
Right.
because Diablo 4, for I think all its shortcomings in the end game and its like overall kind of like mechanics, Diablo 4 is such a fun experience to initially go into. I think it has a lot of front loaded fun and it like initially feels very, very good to play Diablo 4. And I think that being able to, kind of just like drop off of Diablo 4 guilt free ish because like, oh yeah, it's a Game Pass game is I think a good way to keep the not allure, but like I guess like happiness within the player from a value standpoint.
But man, Matt, I still can't get over that. I bought 2 copies of Diablo 4.
Yeah. Honestly, okay,
But
like it dropping onto Game Pass actually does make me wonder how it'll affect, I guess, like future Blizzard games.
right,
Because I think the big weight with regards to like Microsoft buying Blizzards is seeing what potential games show up on Game Pass. And Diablo
right.
4 showing up is, I think, kind of a big deal.
Where I think with the Activision lineup, it was always, oh, what from the back catalog can they just put on Game Pass? Or,
Hmm.
hey, if they have some more, if there is freer reign in theory in Microsoft, what can be brought back just as a new title? And I guess part of our discussions a few months ago when, the deal finalized was, okay, in the Blizzard side, you have a lot of games that are essentially free to play, ongoing, and how does that get incorporated to the Game Pass ecosystem? I know with Game Pass Ultimate perks, for a lot of free to play games, you get starter packs, you get battle passes, you get cosmetics. Is that something we'll see more, on the regular for, say, Overwatch, for Hearthstone? Is this Heroes of the Storm second chance to find a new player base? But kind
Hmm.
of stuff like that, where I feel like it the notion that Activision Blizzard games will be coming to Game Pass, the first being Diablo 4, I guess starting specifically with a Blizzard game, also kind of makes me think, oh, how much of the Blizzard side of things will we get here, and how much
Hmm.
of the more traditional Activision games will we get? And then there's always, it's up in the air. Oh, how does Call of Duty factor in? with this, considering all the agreements in place, everything that they had to say to all these governing bodies and stuff like that. But yeah, I think from my perspective, the biggest thing from the Xbox podcast was the Activision Blizzard announcement, specifically Diablo 4. I'm curious to see what the exciting stuff coming out for Xbox hardware this holiday season ends up being. But yeah, I think at this point it is just kind of waiting. When are these when are these 4 games going to be announced to come to other platforms? Where do we see another Xbox developer direct sometime soon to kind of announce this? But yeah, Matt, a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of nothing, but a lot of kind of corporate tiptoeing that honestly I think we all should have been expecting. Maybe that was me being naive, thinking that this would be more transparent than it actually was. But again, I'm not the head of a corporation, so I don't know how to properly navigate these. But Matt, in an interview with Stephen Totillo of GameFile, Phil Spencer noted, I will say, when I look at a game like Helldivers 2, and it's a great game, kudos to the team shipping on PC and PlayStation. I'm not exactly sure who it helps in the industry by it not being on Xbox, but I get it. There's a legacy in console gaming that we're going to benefit by shipping games and not putting them in other places. Spencer added, conceding that exclusives are the norm for all involved. We do the same thing. What I took away from that is Helldivers 2 is a great game, and we should give kudos to the team who shipped it on PC and PlayStation. Matt said it on the top of the episode. I still don't know what Helldivers 2 is, but Matt, I'm pretty sure you know what Helldivers 2 is.
Oh, man.
Considering that this game has been in the news as of late, Matt. Not only is it popular, not only is it, breaking some Steam records, not only is it seeing what was it, Matt, 400K concurrent players at a given time. It's seeing some success, Matt. But at the same time, I don't know what this game is, but Matt, please tell me, what is Helldivers 2 and why do you like it so much?
Jaren, in kind of like a quick sentence, like recap or explanation, Helldivers 2 is a third-person action extraction shooter. A lot like Dark Zone in... What's that game we were too baby to play, Jaren?
Yeah, the Division.
The Division, yes. But people can't kill you at the end and take your stuff.
Hey, Matt? You're selling me on Helldivers 2 a lot right now.
Jaren, you may want to wait on that buy.
Oh, no.
Because right now, Helldivers is having some very bad server issues. Or it might not even be specifically like server only, but they are having a lot of online like issues. Because Jaren, apparently the Helldivers team just wasn't expecting Helldivers to be this popular of a game. Their back end is honestly basically like shitting itself with this all-time peak. I'm looking at SteamDB right now, Jaren. The all-time peak in the past 24 hours is 411K concurrent users. And that is only counting Steam. That is not counting anybody who's like playing through PlayStation.
Right.
And from my understanding of them, a lot of the people are just saying, oh, just like, spin up more servers so more people can play. But Helldivers introduced a kind of a verification system because they needed verification for their monetization system, right? And apparently, that combined with a lot of online community stuff that Helldivers is doing is apparently just like choking their back end. So even if they were to spin up more servers, there's only so much throughput that they can push through to connect to like the very critical stuff, which is what's really slowing them down, which is very unfortunate for like how popular this game is, and maybe a little bit worrisome for, the less plugged in gaming crowd, where they're really just seeing, oh, this popular game, I'm going to go buy it. Oh, I can't connect. I'm just sitting at this screen for like, I don't know, however many hours I feel like waiting, and then I'm going to refund it and never touch this game again.
Right.
Because Jaren, their connection screen is so bad. Jaren, they don't have a queue to connect, which is wild to me.
That doesn't sound like a good thing, Matt. I feel like you should have a queue timer screen, a proper one at that.
Yeah, so the way that their thing kind of works is that you try to connect to the game on start, or their servers on startup. If you are unable to connect, they'll be like, okay, you're going to retry your connection in 8 seconds, you're going to retry your connection in like 18 seconds, you're going to retry your connection in 13 seconds, or 30 seconds. And the issue with that is that they're not putting you into a queue. You're basically just trying to log in at that exact time so that you can queue in. And if someone happens to leave when you happen to retry, you are able to connect. The second crazy thing is that they have no timeouts for people who are already connected to their service. Because, like, a lot of these things seem wild to begin with, but when you consider that, like, Helldivers was not expecting this level of, I guess, like, users, where, like, oh, Helldivers 1 apparently, like, peaked at sub 10,000 concurrent users. It makes, like, sort of a lot of sense, but people, since you have no timeouts, people are either staying signed in, or on the PlayStation side, if you put your console to sleep, you don't disconnect from their servers. So you're basically just reserving your spot.
Oh, that's crazy, actually.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me, the most like egregious thing is that when you launch the game, you immediately try connecting. You don't get like a, I don't know, kind of splash screen or whatever, because I would like to just, run the game in the background while it's queuing. But the issue is that I have the settings set, for example, like to however I have my like gameplay settings. Like, oh, it's like going to be full screen. It's going to be like at whatever quality. And the issue there is that I now can't, open the game, set my video settings to, like a 1000 by 1000 like window. Right. And I can just have it like connecting in like the background while like, push it to like my second screen where I don't really have to like pay attention to it. So since it's like auto connecting, I have to have it running at like, full screen in the background of my PC or whatever. And there is also like currently a thing where if Helldivers is running, it's like going to, even if it's in the background, going to make use of as much CPU as it can. So it's going to just like boost your thing to, 4,000 frames per second of just a black screen of it trying to connect. So the second I turn Helldivers on, the fans on my computer go crazy.
That doesn't sound like a good experience, and that's kind of a shame that, again, it's not necessarily, you would have to, I see a lot of people pointing to the meme of, suffering from success. But again, as you said, this might be a detriment to even bigger success if you do have a portion of the audience who are potentially trying to play for the first time, can't connect, and then, are forced to refund and maybe never touch it again. Where, it, again, I'm not on the development team. These things maybe not be accounted for. And I can only imagine just how stressful it is trying to kind of sort this out, especially when you have become the latest gaming darling to kind of hit the market. And I know we saw similar growing pains with Power World. And I think, it came out a few weeks ago where how much they're spending, what is it, a month on servers alone, just to ensure people are playing. Where, again, even if you're being have found such a newfound success, the backseat armchair developer of or feedback of, hey, just buy new servers might not necessarily be that simple, unfortunately. But Matt, despite the login issues and not being able to connect, when you are able to connect though, Matt,
Mm-hmm.
you've explained that this is a extraction shooter without the scary PvP elements towards the end of your extraction.
Mm-hmm.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
when you're actually able to play, how does it feel? How are the mechanics? How is the loop? And yeah, more importantly to me, how is the shooting?
It all feels very, very good, Jaren. I think like as a moment to moment experience, when you are actually able to play Helldivers, it is very a very, very fun experience. Um, I think that really helps me like kind of sink into the enjoyment of it is that Helldivers, like the surrounding story or like narration stuff, is very tongue in cheek. Like it is very Starship Troopers esque. It's very like, oh yeah, we're doing this for democracy. It's very strong propaganda kind of tongue in cheek style. I don't know, like promotional video whenever they're like showing stuff on within like any story stuff in the game. The gunplay feels very, very good. The the guns that they give you in the game are all there's not really a hey, this is an upgraded version of this gun necessarily. It's all hey, here's like unlocking an SMG, here's unlocking a shotgun, here's unlocking an auto shotty. Like it's that sort of gun system. And as well, the armor system is like very nice as well because the armors themselves, while they do kind of have minor stats, they are really just divided into hey, this is a light armor, this is a medium armor, this is a heavy armor, and then the armors have like shared properties, sort of, depending on what armor it is. It's like, oh, this armor allows you to wear or have like 2 more health packs, and that is just a property that can exist on multiple different armors. Like they can look different, and that's kind of how they're I don't know if like balancing is the right word, but that's how they're implementing their kind of armor system, which I think
Okay.
is like a nice way to do it. Especially
That,
since this game has a paid battle pass equivalent.
oh, okay. But
Mhm,
Matt,
mhm.
you're talking about armor, so I have to ask.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Paid battle pass aside, we can get to that a bit later.
Yes.
But how are the cosmetics here, Matt? How's the player customization? Because if I ever get the game and am able to connect, how is the dress up aspect for when we're extracting together with the boys?
I'll be honest, Sharon, the dress up aspect is kind of weak.
Oh no. Okay.
There is no color customization on any of like the armors and stuff. The armors are kind of like preset into hey, here's your body armor, here's your helmet, and here's your cape. And since they're color locked, you can't really do I think like too much good mixing and matching, which is unfortunate.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
since skills and stuff are tied to particular armors, you're kind of also limited in that sense on what you can wear.
Okay.
But the designs themselves, like I think, are like pretty like good. They are very I don't know. They fit the theme very well, and I don't think there's anything like too like rough about the design of the things. But like if you're looking for a dress up game, this isn't the one to go to.
Fair enough, Matt. Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the game mechanics, again,
Mm-hmm.
this is an extraction game. How's the loop? Are you just dropping into a given area? Is it procedurally generated? How's you trying to actually get to the point of extraction?
So the maps are all kind of like, or the missions, I guess, are all procedurally generated. They have multiple mission types, whether it's hey, go destroy like this type of base, or hey, launch an ICBM missile, or hey, this place has ammo stores. We need you to hit every single one on this area of the map and go destroy them. Like it kind of like does that as a structure, and I kind of like the mission structure because it does take all these like, kind of like random or like it's like preset mission types. The maps themselves are kind of pseudo randomized in the same way that Diablo is randomized, where it is more so, instead of it being like purely procedurally generated, it is they have preset things and they seed them all across the map and they
Okay.
design the map that way. So their mission structure is I think pretty good, where depending on what difficulty you're playing on, as you move up in difficulty, missions change to operations, which are groups of missions, and if you do all the missions within that group, you gain more and more bonuses for each one you finish, which I think is a nice way to make people play multiple different mission types instead of oh, I'm always gonna do this 14-minute extraction type mission, which is very fast. It's very known quantity, and I can farm it. I like this kind of grouping them together so that you gain more and more. It seems like it's exponentially more rewards each time. So it is a very big bonus to do it that way.
Okay, so with that loop in mind, how long is a typical, I guess, session for you, Matt? Just start of a round to extraction usually.
So I think that for me, it's usually half an hour per mission, but that can vary a lot depending on what you're looking for within a mission.
Okay.
Because, Jaren, the way that the missions are set up, if you kind of beeline the mission, the primary objective of your mission, I think you can finish that and be out for any type of any type of mission you decide to roll into. You can be done that and extracted in probably 10 to 12 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But I think the way where it varies more is how much of the secondary objectives you decide to do. Because while the map isn't huge, it is big enough that they can hide things. And the way that they do this is it follows a very, I think, Breath of the Wild sort of structure, where along the way to the primary objectives, you can see a thing in the distance and be like, oh, I think that's a submission. Or you can hear a beeping and you're like, oh, there must be a hidden pod nearby. Or sometimes they'll a lot of times they will seed question marks into your compass at the top of the screen. You can be like, oh, okay, I can go look at, just take a quick diversion, see what that is, see if it's anything interesting, because that's where they hide a lot of, your kind of alternate currencies, whether it be money. They have things called samples, which you use to upgrade your ship in certain ways. They have additional, what do you call it? Kind of the battle pass currency, which is just called medals.
Right.
And I think very nicely, they also, it's a lot more rare than all the other things, but they have the premium currency hidden in that way as well.
Oh, nice.
So you can essentially, through gameplay, buy the premium battle pass, which I think is pretty nice. And the free battle pass equivalent also gives you the you are able to unlock premium currency there as well. You can't unlock enough to buy the premium battle pass through just the free battle pass, but with the kind of in-world premium currency that you're picking up, you can eventually get it. I'm pretty close, I think, to buying the premium battle pass without spending any money.
Okay. I was going to ask how you were in terms of progress for that, but
I think I'm 90% of the way to the premium battle pass.
okay, nice. Matt, got to ask about the battle pass.
Yes.
As someone who, again, has dabbled with a lot of battle passes, a lot of games that have the daily aspect, how is progressing the battle pass in Helldivers 2? Does it feel grindy? Does it feel attainable? And of course, how would you, to you personally, how do you feel are the unlocks in the battle pass? Do you think there's any value to them? Do you think it's worth it? But yeah, how are you feeling towards the battle pass?
So I think that the battle pass is right now very pretty good. The early unlocks, are all very cheap, and it does get more and more expensive as the game goes on, or as the battle pass goes on. But as the difficulty goes up, you do get more of the battle pass currency for just doing stuff. And through the battle pass, you are able to, get things like, new armors, new guns, new helmets, capes, emotes, victory poses, premium currency, and just kind of like other upgrades or like, bonuses and stuff. And while right now I think that it's a fun way to kind of unlock everything, I am iffy on how it's going to work in the future. Because if the free battle pass is kind of just like a one and done thing that they get rid of at some point, I'm wondering what they're going to do, because like I said, you unlock guns, armors, and stuff through the free battle pass, and I'm wondering if that means, hey, once this battle pass rotates out, or if it even rotates out, is that gun just like gone forever? Because like I have, my favorite gun is the auto shotgun that's inside the battle pass right now, and it would be, to me like shitty if as a new player you come in and you see like someone has an auto shotgun and that is not available in the battle pass.
Right.
Like, additionally, like stuff in the premium battle pass, like it's like that same shotgun, but like some, its ammo capacity is lowered, but it shoots like incendiary ammo. Like if that were to disappear, like, is that unattainable? Because I understand like putting them into a, kind of progression system is a good way to limit the power or like control the power of a player. But I'm concerned on what's going to happen once this battle pass potentially rotates out.
Yeah, that's always a fair concern regarding, especially when you put such heavy gameplay, mechanics or aspects into the battle pass itself. Where does the battle pass have a time limit to it? Does it say, this season ends in X amount of time? And have they said, you can buy previous battle passes, where kind of like Halo, you can always just activate one of their previous battle passes if you see fit?
I haven't seen any information about it, but I do really hope it works like the Halo system, where like, all of them are active. Like they're just gonna add new ones as the game goes on, and they're always gonna be accessible. I think that would be the best way to do it, but I am like concerned since like there isn't any particular news about it. And I worry that they're going to rotate stuff out just because, like, Helldivers 2 is trying to be a, like, live service game, basically. So you do have to, like, as bad as, like, as shitty as it is, like, you do need to implement some kind of, like, FOMO to make people, keep playing or whatever. But
oh man, is this modern gaming now, Matt?
Yeah, Jaren.
Is this our dark dystopian gaming future?
I mean, if it is, Jaren, the game itself is still very, very good.
Of course.
There's a lot of I still haven't really talked about the gameplay itself, but the immediate gameplay loop of just shooting dudes feels very good. There, as you kind of go up in difficulty, every new difficulty rank, as far as like the difficulties I've played, have basically been, hey, they slightly increase the amount of mobs. They slightly seem to be increasing their like how often you're going to get hit, and they are at every new difficulty introducing a new mob type for the faction that you're facing. There being two factions right now, basically robots or bugs, and I do like that they feel different to fight against, because it is kind of going with the robots have, ranged weapons because like they can shoot lasers at you and stuff. They have real kind of like war style fortifications when you're attacking their bases. Like they have auto turrets that they mount. They have, like cannons that shoot at you and stuff that you have to deal with when you're fighting against them. But their numbers compared to the bugs are a lot lower. The bugs are really, hey, we're going to run up to you, melee you, and they're going to swarm hard, and it feels good because like I think on the earlier difficulties you can kind of just bring whatever, but then once you move into the kind of medium difficulties, you begin to like notice the more like, oh, I have to bring different stuff depending on what enemy type I'm facing, which I think is
Right.
always a good feeling when you're creating different, I guess, archetype. No, I don't know if like I guess like in this case species of enemies, but groups of factions. Factions is the right word. Like factions of enemies. I think that's like a very good way to distinguish factions between each other.
Okay. That's
And
cool, Matt.
and I think like really the only thing that's like really bothering me about the kind of gameplay is how similar-ish the maps are. Because like since they are kind of limited in I guess like initial scope, because like again, Helldivers was expecting to be a much smaller game, but it's like kind of almost being pushed as a AAA right now, where like you do see a lot of like similarity between the maps, and you're like, okay, like this is like I'm fighting this like randomly like seeded base like type A or type B, and like okay, this is how it's gonna be laid out. I can expect to find stuff like here, here, and here. But I think that comes with any kind of like procedurally generated game.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think the thing that personally like bothers me the most is kind of just the visual obfuscation the game like is kind of making,
How so?
because there are certain, so when you're picking a mission, a little bit like kind of before that you're picking the planet that you're playing on. And the planet that you're playing on, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'm gonna go fight on the ice planet. I'm gonna go fight on like the desert planet, the the jungle planet or whatever. And each of them is gonna have like their own like kind of like effects that they have. Like for example, when you're on the jungle planet, oh, you have a huge chance that hey, your missions are gonna be rainy. If you're gonna play on the like desert planet or the ice planet, it's gonna be like, oh, heat weapons are going to react differently there. Like, oh, you're on the hot planet, they're gonna heat up faster. On the cold planet, they're gonna heat up slower. Like that sort of thing. And a thing that comes with that is that there's like with the rainy planet, with the jungle planet or whatever, and similar planet styles, they have more visual obfuscation. Like there's
Right.
trees everywhere, there's plants everywhere, and it makes it harder to see the enemies. And then on the like ice planet or whatever, like oh, it's all white, it's all ice, it's all plains ish. So it's easier to see the enemies. It's almost like more preferable to play on that planet because you are less likely to be taken by surprise by something that you didn't see. And I don't know, that sort of thing makes me like prefer those planets, right? And it makes me not want to play on the harder to see planets just because like
Yeah.
oh, it's more clear. The gameplay is like a bit more you feel like you it's less bullshit that you got killed by this rocket dude that you didn't even see because he was behind like a leaf,
Okay,
right?
fair enough, Matt. No, that's actually fair. That's really fair. Do you think this is something that they might be able to address as because wait, is this a full release or is this early? I can't
This is a
believe
full
this is
release.
okay.
This is a full release.
I can't believe I need to ask this now in 2024. But yeah, do you think that's something that can be addressed through their updates, through patches, or even just, I guess, new biomes or whatever?
I think maybe through new biomes, but I don't really see how you can change this too much because then you begin to lose like the, I guess, personality of each planet.
Right.
And then that also, takes away from it in a different way.
Okay.
But I don't know, like the game itself is very fun. I like the, okay, Jaren, how do you feel about stuff like community missions? And by that I mean something like it is a goal that the community has to reach together, and when the community reaches it, you get a prize.
Oh, is this similar to? I'm just gonna pull something out of my butt. Hey, let's all come together this weekend and kill 1 billion enemies, and when the community collectively kills 1 billion enemies, everyone's gonna get a reward. Stuff like that, right?
Yes, it's that sort of thing.
where again, that's just another staple through these online service games, Matt. Building on the FOMO, Matt, trying to pump up the CCU, trying to get everyone to play a certain time.
Hmm.
And I think I like it in theory, but again, it's one of those things where maybe I've been on the luckier side that, oh, the community will be able to reach it regardless of me participating or not. So it's just
Uh
me
huh.
kind of reaping the rewards with no effort on my part. But I think it isn't super offensive to me or but I guess it also depends on the prizes that they're giving out. Is it going to be worth the grind or me contributing to this? How likely are we going to achieve this? Again, it's a staple that I'm used to, but not one that
Hmm.
I'm necessarily for or against. I think it's just there to me personally. But how about you, Matt? What do you think?
Jared, I don't like it
Right?
because like I
Is it
feel
just, do you
like
think it's lazy design or?
it's not that it's lazy design. When I see kind of stuff like, hey, here's your daily mission, here's your weekly mission, here's your monthly missions or whatever,
Mhm.
I feel obligated to contribute as much as I can towards that
Fair, fair.
within like, yeah, like to like, cuz I wanted that reward. But for this one in particular, their thing is like, hey, you have to defend 8 planets from the automaton threat.
Okay.
And the way that works is that basically every time a player, successfully completes a mission, it contributes to a planet's like I think it's called like liberation. And every time like a player fails a mission, it like takes away from that. Or it adds to a different bar that the enemies have. And the way that this mission works is that for 8 planets, the players need to win more than they lose. And I think right now the community is at like two wins to like one loss in terms of planets. And the amount that you really contribute isn't really that much as an individual player. But I feel obligated to like play on these planets. But the issue is that these planets, it because you need to defend, there's a specific mission type that is always included. And I feel like that mission type is also such a different mission type than every other mission type that it feels weird.
Okay.
And I
No,
don't know. I
that's
think
fair.
maybe
That's
it's just
fair.
this. Yeah, this particular one is weirding me out.
Yeah, I feel like for those community events to work, they need to be, as bad as this sounds, like attainable without
Hmm.
like too much effort, to be honest.
Uh
Because
huh. Uh huh.
realistically, a community event should be a glorified login reward.
Yeah.
That any progress that you are going to do through your normal play should contribute. And yeah, if it's kind of not like more elaborate and there's a notable chance of failure, I think
Uh huh.
that's when it kind of gets to the unappealing side. But Matt,
Hmm. Hmm.
given the effort that you need to put, how are the rewards looking?
The word for that particular mission, honestly, like I could give or take. To be honest,
Yeah,
like it's just like an amount of money to unlock, kind of like your skills or things called like stratagems, which are basically your loadout stuff.
fair
I
enough,
oh,
fair enough.
actually, Jared, I can't believe I didn't talk about the stratagem setup for this game because like that's
Okay,
the kind of like big thing for the gameplay and how you
right.
because Helldivers doesn't really have classes. You're kind of setting yourself up with these things called stratagems, which are basically either like gear or support abilities that you can bring into any mission you decide to do. You are able to bring 4 on any given mission, and you select them like at the start, and you cannot change them from that point on. These things include things like, hey, I want to bring a like a specialty weapon, whether it's like a rocket launcher or a machine gun or a rail gun or that sort of thing. To things like, hey, I want to bring a sentry turret, or I want to be able to call a plane to do what do you call it, like airstrikes. Like there's so many different stratagems that you can bring with you, and it lets you vary yourself so much when you're going onto a mission that it feels so good to like, hey, I picked the perfect stratagem for this mission because it really, really worked out at this point in time.
Okay.
And Jaren, also, I know I didn't mention this yet. This game has like hard friendly fire, so the ones that you're like, there are definitely stratagems that they designed with one single player in mind. I think where they just have such a high friendly fire rate that it may not be good to like bring them on multiplayer missions. But man, Jaren, that friendly fire is something wild.
Oh man, that if there's one thing that can turn me off of a gaming experience, it might be friendly fire.
I think like because death isn't necessarily such a big like hamper.
Okay.
Friendly fire isn't like that bad.
Right.
Because like actually the stratagem system is one thing I didn't mention already is that I think the deployment of your stratagems is very interesting because the way it works is that you have to press and hold a button that brings up your stratagem list, and then on your stratagem list is just like a combination of arrows that you have to put in to use your stratagem as an item. Because like you kind of like it could be something like, oh, I think up, down, right, left, up is how you respawn a like dead ally.
Right.
So what it does is like, oh, you press that combination, it puts like a kind of like ball or tracker or something in your hand, and then you like throw that onto the floor, and then that's where whatever particular stratagem you selected drops. And that kind of like quick, kind of like bust the groove-esque it like combo that you have to like put in for these items. I don't know, it feels really good. It feels so good once you've like had to put in a like stratagem combination because they're fixed towards like whatever item it is. So like the respawn is always like the respawn one. And I don't know, the I don't know, quote unquote mastery of being able to like fill it in quickly is it feels very satisfying. And apparently the combos are still exactly the same from Helldivers 1. So that's like a nice carryover of
I like when developers do that, Matt. That's fun, Matt. That's fun, Matt.
Same. But yeah, it feels really good to get those in quickly.
Okay. But Matt, you said it at the top. This is an extraction shooter at its core. Matt, before we extract out of here, you got to tell me, how's the actual extraction process? And normally in games like this, it is that instance, it is that moment of your run that really, not only does it make or break your run, but most can result in some really good stories. So lay it down on me, Matt. How's the extraction, and have you run into any shenanigans trying to extract?
Yeah, Jaren, the extraction. So basically, the way it works is like there is like a extraction point that's initially marked on the map. You basically just run to it. You call down your, it's called like a pelican. That's like their ship that like picks them up, and then you like signal for it. You have to survive 2 minutes in that area, and then obviously, Jaren, like game is going to be designed that waves of enemies start coming at this point. Jaren, it feels very good because if you are, like you can like set stuff up so that you can almost not even have to do anything on the defend. Like you can set things up so that you never run into, or the enemies never even get close to you just because you've brought enough stratagems to, set up the hard defense for your extraction.
Sounds like my kind of game, Matt.
There's also, I think, like a very nice thing where if the game has kind of like patrols that follow around that once you like, they see you, they become hostile. I think if you don't like trip on a lot of those, you can kind of like stealth your way towards the extraction point, and you don't even really have to fight more than like 10 enemies as a horde, which I think is like a very nice thing. Right. But Jared, when stuff is like getting hot and you're like, oh, okay, we're running out of time. We need to get out of this mission. So we have to go to the extract. Just run, ignore the enemies. And the enemies, I think, won't necessarily de-aggro from you. They'll just keep following you to the point where you like are extracting. And Jaren, that stuff is so good. Setting up the defense where you can, just barely make it out. You have to keep the extraction point clear so that the ship can land. Jaren, the ship can kill you if it lands on you.
Incredible.
So, there's that shenanigan. Jaren, I like that the kind of meta when you're on getting onto the ship is that before you step onto it, you salute.
But that's so good, Matt. That's so good.
But then there's some points where you're like, oh, we don't have time for this. Just get inside. Like those points feel really, really good. Jaren, when they're swarming and there's explosions just going off, you're getting knocked left and right by like the concussion, like I guess waves coming from these explosions, and you're just desperately trying to get into the ship. Oh, that's so good. Jaren, I think a really I guess like interesting mechanic they decided to add to the game is that there are these things called samples, which are a type of currency within the game, and they are shared between all players, like no matter who picks them up. But in order to receive them at the end of the game, that person who picked it up has to make it onto the extraction ship. So I've run into instances where it's like, okay, you know what? There's like so many of these dudes here. I'm going to like bust a way through. I'm going to drop a nuke on myself essentially so that you can run through because you're holding the samples.
Oh, man.
Or like, oh, like the extract is here. The extract ship is here. So and so just died, but they were holding a majority of our samples. And then you have to decide, oh, the Pelican the Pelican is only going to stay here for 30 seconds. Do we have enough time to get to their corpse, pick up the samples, and then get out? And I don't know. It feels all that kind of like stress there feels really good. It also like, particularly feels bad when once you're in the ship, you can't get out of it anymore. So I've had the instance where the last person's running on and then they just get swiped by a mob and they don't make it to the ship and it just takes off. And, you get that, oh, not everybody extracted. You don't get as much bonuses and you've lost their samples. I don't know, Jared. There was one time where we weren't really like paying attention on where exactly the extract would happen. And it happened kind of at a choke point. So we unintentionally kind of just like, it's a choke point, Jaren. So, you're expecting a lot of mobs to go through there. We covered that place in just mines. And when we realized that that's where the extract was, we all at some point died trying to extract because we'd walk on our own mines. But, that was a good goof on us.
Oh, man, Matt. That sounds really good, Matt. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the page right now, $50 Canadian. You can also buy the Helldivers 2 Super Citizen Edition for $80 Canadian. But Matt, needless to say, it sounds like you are enjoying your time with Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
And definitely something we can kind of get your updates in if you have any other exciting stories. In you sharing your excitement, Matt, I totally realized I forgot to pick up Lethal Company on sale. So maybe I could have put that money towards Helldivers 2. But Matt, for now at least, any closing thoughts on your time with the game?
It's really fun. The way that they're talking about their server issues does make it seem like it's not going to be a quick fix, which is very unfortunate. But I do hope that there aren't going to be a lot of weekends like this where it's going to just, be rammed and you have to, kind of like endlessly queue to try to get in and hope you get in.
Because Matt, this sounds like a fun game, and hopefully the devs are able to come out the other end just with some stable servers, some great quality of life updates. Because from just your enthusiasm, Matt, this is definitely something that I can see be one of the sleeper hits of, not necessarily sleeper hits of the year, but, a contender at the end of the year that will reach a lot of lists. But Matt, Helldivers 2 available now, and damn, Matt, you're making me want to try to extract and give us a loot along the way. But Matt, another beefy episode. Matt, we were able to extract another beefy episode of the Mistake Zone. I want to thank you, as always, for joining me this week, and of course, editing this podcast.
Yo, thanks, Jaren. I want to thank you for, as always, hosting this show and bringing a lot more stuff, a variety of stuff to the show than I do.
Hey, thanks, man. I want to thank video games. I want to thank divers. I want to thank the number 2. Matt, want to thank Facebook Marketplace because I purchased one of the new Iono cards from the latest Pokemon set. Nice looking card, Matt. Nice looking card. Looking at that right now.
Nice.
But Matt, I think we're up for another run, so please take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and hopefully we're all out of server issues.
Hopefully, Matt. Hopefully.